Welcome back to Nighthawk Gaming. Today we're having a look at AFL 23. Bit of an update video. It was released on the 4th of May for the PlayStation consoles. We're still waiting for the Xbox version to come out, but the developers, Big Ant Studios, have dropped probably bi-weekly patches at this point to try and get it up to a standard. It did release in a pretty average state, it must be said. Quite a few issues with it. I tried it again after the first week of patches and still really wasn't up to snuff, so I sort of put it away, put it to the side for a little bit. Thought we'd come back to it eventually once they've managed to iron out some of the major issues, which it seems like it does. So for those that haven't played it, there was AI issues to start with. I think one of the biggest ones on release was the fact that you could literally just walk up from one end of the ground to the other and kick a goal, and the opposition would in effect run away from you. They've also included some extra settings there that we might be able to see. So you've got the season, I think they've updated some of that, the management career that they've updated, and the Hall of Fame, which I'm not sure if that was the Legends type mode that where we were originally promised. But we can have a quick look into that now and see where that sits, or whether that's just a... no, it looks like it's literally just a Hall of Fame. So what we might do is we will jump into... We'll just do a play now game to start with. AFL. My beloved Cats, who are not travelling overly well at the moment. Let's see, they are playing this weekend. They are playing the Bulldogs, so we might set up that game. Hopefully we can win that one. I don't... not holding out much hope, but we will see how we go. And we'll see if, in fact, it is at a more playable state now for AFL 23. Whether they put enough effort, time, and all the rest of it into getting it up to a playable state. Again, I said on release that the reality is it's a small Australian studio, so you've got to take that into account. You can't be expecting that you're going to be playing a NBA 2K or NHL, MLB The Show quality level game with all the bells and whistles that go with that one. But surely they are charging full price for it, so I would have thought even with some of those concessions it would have been in a somewhat playable state on release. But let's jump into it. We'll see how we go, see if it's any better for us.
Stanley wins the first hit out. Guthrie gathers. He's wrapped up. Hagen didn't need to be asked twice. Terrific tackle. Treloar takes the responsibility. Just needs to finish.
Well, I haven't started well, but in any event, let's just, while we're doing that, we might just have a look at the settings before we keep going, just into the controls. There we go. So attacking controls without the ball is the one we want. So set shot, loose ball. So sprints R2, mark is triangle, and switch player L1, which was one of the other issues that was initially a problem with it. And tackles triangle as well. So with the ball controls, we've got handball is square. So let's see how we go with that. But that was one of the issues that we had, as I recall, was the switching of players was not the greatest, because what would happen quite often, your players would be more or less, the way the AI was sitting was your players would more or less be wanting to follow their direct opponent. The only problem with that was if you had your player with the we might have to just check those set shot ones as well. If your player and their were standing on the mark and their opposition player was running away, there weren't really, you couldn't switch to another Yeah, so it was circle. Yeah, so you couldn't switch to another player because what would happen is it would switch to the nearest player to the opposition ball carrier. And I forgot that one as well. You got to hold the,
He should have the distance, but I'm not sure he has.
which is not a great start. So let's see how we go.
By hand, Jones. He's been busy so far. Tui takes an excellent grab. This might be a chance for the high flyers.
So in effect, you couldn't switch off the man on the mark to go and try and defend a different area or a different player, and you almost had no control over
Kicks it goal, and that's travelling straight over the goal.
the defensive side of things, which was, you know, a big issue. But I can say it's playing a heck of a lot better than the last time I laid hands on it.
English, McRae.
The other thing which is of interest is the camera controls or the camera settings, which I did play around with when it was originally released. And one of the issues with the camera controls, if you had it end-to-end sort of,
For this ball, Jones tries to spike it out of the danger zone. Close, couldn't get an effective disposal.
He's gone. He had plenty of time.
Doesn't
if you, yeah, as I was saying, if you had it end-to-end, it'd flick around and was borderline
Stewart fumble.
unplayable in its initial
Solid tackle.
thing because it would flick around so much. You
They might be
you just lost track of where everything was and who was where, and
Blitzer. He ran into a brick wall. That's a dreadful hand pass.
and all that sort of stuff.
Delivers to centre half forward. No wonder coaches go.
But again, seems to be,
Can he find a teammate?
as I say, in a much better state than what it was.
They're going hammer and
Even the marking is not as
the hole and marks.
well, I shouldn't say inconsistent, but the issue with it was that I found, especially early going, was you almost had no control over the mark, and if you weren't in a good position to mark it, you couldn't spoil. But that seems to
You can see their belief growing. English smash
seems to have,
Bontempelli, Duray,
for the most part, be okay now.
He hasn't kicked it very well. DeConing got to the drop.
Although you can see it still
Going for
does
Terry.
favour your player
Clears the area. McRae couldn't get a disposal. Stanley.
to some degree.
Plenty of heat in this game. Guthrie feeling the heat. Penetrating.
We'll see how we go with this one. So there's 3 other players around. Oh, that's a bit better.
Smith, Rowan. Desperate defence. The Cats with a chance.
A bit better in terms of that you're not automatically sort of getting.
English wins the
What
hit out.
happened there?
Bontempelli, Treloar. No easy exit. I think he called for that. Stanley. It's a tough game.
The crowd cries ball and they get their wish.
That's skillful. Cameron within range can make them pay.
These half chances can often
Big
be.
Jezza. Well, I have to say though, the kicking for goal,
The distance. Darcy wins the contest.
that is one
Cameron reads the ball.
area that was a big improvement, because as you can see, as we're lining up for goal here, so you've got 2 bars in essence, so you have to hold down there for your kick, and then quite often, so the accuracy is the second bar that comes up as you're coming in. Now quite often that would not be there at all,
It wasn't his best effort.
Just wonder how many more chances.
and the problem being that you had no control over the accuracy or well, there you go. It looks like you can to some degree
Dale tasked with the kicking. He's hit up the
change the player on the mark's controls, although it's not.
Hughes wins it back. Great mark. Is anyone home? Guthrie. had his
Quite as
way.
fluid as you'd probably hope.
Good kick. Stengel is the man on the spot and is marked.
This should not be a problem.
But certainly, as I say, in a much better playable state than what it was released in.
Well, no problems there.
The other one I haven't tried is the online aspect of it as well. So
Good match so far.
be interesting to see whether that, how that travels now in terms of the online component of it, and that's not one that I jumped into when it was originally released, purely for the fact that there was significant issues with matchmaking and holding the game. You might be able to get into a game and find someone to play with or play against one of your friends, but quite often what would happen is you'd start the game and it either wouldn't load up properly for one or both of you, and then the other issue being that you might get into the game, you might start it, and then halfway through the game it was just sort of dropping out, which is, again, not ideal.
Stanley gets his hand to it. Blitzers, well played. His vision was excellent. They're playing for keeps. He can smell a goal from a long way off, but his kick is astray.
The finish let down some good play. I think he had more time than he thought.
The goal kicking on the run probably still leaves a little bit to be desired there.
Taking no risks with the kick in. Jones marks in the back pocket. Honours the lead. Slick hands. They've put themselves under pressure. He'll be sore in the morning. Rowan, was that a throw? Hawkins. It's no place for the faint-hearted.
You had prior opportunity.
So you can switch between players there. The only
Be able to start something. Good thinking and good execution too. Stanley picks
sort
up
of, yeah, and then you can see there, I'm not quite sure that he should have marked that. He was well behind.
into the pocket he goes. Rowan has a way of drawing the footy.
Kicking at his first.
I suppose the other thing which I haven't really noticed yet was some of the graphical assets as well.
Many of these, and he
So
missed that one.
quite often where you see the goal umpire there, it would be just they'd be using the same assets as some of the players that they'd scanned in, or some of the coaches. So you'd find that the coach of your team was
Good handball. Stanley, they're building something dangerous here.
standing in the goal square signalling for a goal, so, which was bizarre.
Has it on a string. Onto the non-preferred. Smith works hard to present. Duray. They cannot keep him quiet. Dale lays it off. Comes free in the tackle. Stanley.
And you can see there some of the player movement as well
McRae, desperate to win it back.
seems to be a bit more fluid, and that was one of the issues
Through it goes. And there's
with the original one, is that if you were trying to change direction, then obviously, you know, being agile and being able to move is fairly critical for
English, the winner there. He's under close attention.
the AFL football. The issue is that you would quite often find yourself being either unable to turn, or if you did turn, it'd be
Just has to hit a target. Cameron,
it'd take you a while to actually get it
what a game he's having. Close.
done. But you can see there, you can actually, once you've got a hold of the ball, there is,
Leans back.
it's quite fluid, and you can actually string some good kicks together, some handballs together. So again, certainly playing a lot better than the
Have pushed the margin out to beyond a goal. Guthrie.
initial version that did come out.
Bodies his opponent and took a ripper.
Big timer.
And he should be able
Walk.
to answer in the affirmative.
For a 3-goal game, it's there. They've pinched
Well, I hope this is an indication of this weekend's game that
His body. Then went back, put it straight through the middle.
the Cats having a good pass. Stanley.
the Cats can get up over the Doggies, because we're certainly not playing this well, it must be said.
Kicks to a contest. Smith got to the right position and hung on. They're playing with purpose and poise. Great footy. They're hard to stop when they move the ball like that.
This is what he gets paid to do, kick these goals.
He makes no mistake.
The Cats are getting reward for their dominance, though you could argue they should be even further in front.
The Dogs will need to respond. It's being put to them. They've got good chemistry, those two. He's everywhere at the moment. Stewart ensures that foray will come to nothing. You can see their confidence growing. Smith working hard and being rewarded. Dangerfield. The Cats are playing some great footy. Cameron. Had some assistance. Smith goes goalward, and he's off target.
They did well to construct that shot at goal, but the inability to convert.
Well, there's got to be a way there that I can kick on the run, because it seems to be the only flaw in, or the chink in the armour at the moment. Oh, good smother. Let's try you. Oh no, I've handballed it through. You clown.
Back into play. English. That one was all.
Well, that does seem to be a little bit of an issue that you can see there. Is the
This is a big opportunity. Thought his way through it. Henry takes an excellent grab. Good tackle.
And he's done.
there was a little bit of movement there with that one, so he marked the ball and then you try to play on because there was no one around you, and it doesn't
Can he be the fire starter? Johannesson.
it doesn't pick up the play on momentum, or the
That's a strong
player's momentum, I suppose.
Fancy his chances.
To continue running, it sort of stopped, and then by the time you've held down the right trigger to play on and keep the momentum going, it sort of stops. So there's a little bit of an issue with that one.
He's normally dependable, and he is this time.
Better ball movement on that occasion allowed them to open up that opportunity in front of goal, and they've got full reward for it.
The Dogs haven't played great footy, but they're hanging in there. Guthrie, will the umpire pluck a free kick? The Cats can build something
Oof.
here. He's giving 100%. Terrific tackle. Williams. The defence is disorganised. Johannesson has it at half forward. The defence has fallen down. Ugle-Hagan has found some space. It's there.
Strange little plays there, but nevertheless,
They get it, they'll be in front.
they've ran us out for the first half. I would have thought, as soon as he bounces the ball.
The halftime siren sounds.
So overall, as I said, much better improvement as to
What's happening down there, Gary?
There's not a lot to
the initial start of the game,
on the
but
scoreboard or on the stat sheet.
much more fluid. But obviously, you know, the more
50s are all fairly
time that you put into it
If the
and
match continues like this, it'll be engrossing, but I can't help but feel that
get
someone
used to the
will
control
wake up
schemes,
at
because
some
it
point.
is,
I'm just not
it's
sure.
quite
Plays out. Thanks, Gary. Sees something he likes. Ignoring the corridor.
quite a lot of actions and stuff that you need
He's generally a good kick. Duncan. Feeds
to keep up with in terms of, you know, the button presses and
This for number 3.
and all that sort of stuff. But on face value, it seems to be in a heck of a lot better state, I suppose. The big question will be when you start doing, and there was initially with the career mode, that I think originally they only had, you could do a career mode that
tirelessly.
consisted of
Throws it on the boot.
one season. So you'd play one season and then that was it. That was the career mode, which is
He's off. He might have thought about the
bizarre to say the least.
probing ball. Blitzers. On centre wing. Tui. Bontempelli with the smother.
Oh, took too long with that one.
Nacon left them. Stanley. A bit of a panic.
And handball it straight across.
Not good footy
No,
there.
an handball
They
that
need
far,
to
but
get the scoreboard here. Stewart is there to save the day. They'll contest in the
as I
centre
said, you,
square. Duncan.
it's quite good in, or it's a lot better, I should say, in respect to being able to
Like winners. Home.
actually target and hit some of your players,
A good
work
kick
your way
there.
down the field a bit better than what it was on release. So
They've got time to put the kettle on. Richards after it. No easy exit. Navigated the traffic. Keith. Greg Williams would have been proud of that one. McRae. Connor Jasny claims a terrific contested mark at centre half back. Duncan.
the only thing which sort of hasn't changed too much
Sees
is
an opportunity
the,
and plays on. Two.
you know, you sort of,
I've liked his game today. Keith with the big fist. Gathers it
when,
cleanly on the wing.
you know, the opposition's got the ball, you
Towards the goal now. They've got it deep. That's great.
you sort of seem to struggle a bit in terms of,
Shouldn't present any problems.
you know, they, and even when you've got it, you can see it a little bit, which makes the play a bit easier. But certainly,
He's steered it through.
when the opposition's got the ball,
He's the epitome of efficiency tonight.
that your players aren't really sticking with their opposition, so sometimes it can make it a bit hard. So
turnover. He'll feel that one. They can smell victory.
You know, to get the ball back off them. But as you can see, we're travelling all right.
Drop punt. That'll be a goal.
Goal kicking, set shot kicking certainly, as I said before, in a much better state than what it was.
Getting away from them. Stanley had his measure today. McRae has some attention to deal with. That was almost handed to him. It's a tough game. West, Trelaw, English. Well, that's not like him. He's a slippery customer. Home. Poor decision making there. It's amounted to nothing. Who's at home? DeConing takes a potentially goal-saving mark on the last line of defence. Duncan gets to the front spot. Tui. The Cats look well drilled. Guthrie. Away he goes. Heads towards half forward. Smith. Their ball movement has been impressive. This is champagne footy.
To push the margin beyond 30.
Kicking for his first. Hawkins is so strong one-on-one.
Going at his second.
Oh no, I've done it again. Hopefully it goes over the top and not into the man on the mark, but I'm not holding my breath there.
Punt looks good. He's got it.
Well, it was just enough, so there we go.
From strength to strength. They've got all the answers at the minute.
It's not over yet, but it might be soon. It's been a great duel between the two big men. Bontempelli, he'll be sore in the morning. Williams, he's set upon. Johannesson, English, clever kick. Good thinking and good.
You know, you're playing defence and you've got players. You know, you sort of don't mind being outmarked, but when you've got players that are just way out on their own, it makes it difficult to defend, I suppose.
Just got to make sure you get the next one.
Tui to bring it in. Can't take it. That's a bit of a waste. Gets his kick despite the heat. Johannesson in the clear.
And that's, you know, that's an example of it there that you can see.
Get him into the game. We know how damaging he can be.
The Dogs with a much needed goal.
But I suppose it's not dissimilar in some respects to the actual game itself. You know, you turn the ball over and you're going to have players free inside.
It's been that kind of day for them.
His goal was so far, but this would be a great way to get on the score sheet.
Do not know what happened there. I've gone backwards about 50 metres. And I don't know what happened there because he didn't kick the ball. End of the third quarter.
Time to check in with Gary.
The Cats haven't nailed the door shut.
You can see we might,
They know there's still work to do.
just on the next break in play, might see if we can just have a look at some of the character models and how they sort of look, because I just saw what I imagine is supposed to be Tyson Stengel, I should say, flash up on the screen. Look nothing like his real world character, or his real world look, I guess.
The other side just sitting back waiting for their teammates to do the work.
Kicks for goal. It's a lovely looking kick. He's drilled it.
That's a class.
So that's Gary Rowan. Does, yeah, I suppose you might know that just because you know, but
The Dogs need a miracle now.
that's how it's supposed to be. But you certainly wouldn't if you just saw it like that.
Has brought his own ball.
Tries to take him on and loses.
You, I'd imagine you certainly wouldn't just know by looking at him that that's
With a superb relief
who it's supposed to be.
He's been dispossessed.
That's got to be a free kick. Took them on, didn't dispose of it correctly.
Gives some ground with a handball. Smith. He's so clean with the footy. DeConing cuts it off. Sees something he likes. Henry in the right spot. He's completely
Oh, kicked it out in the full.
Missed a target by a long one.
They might be out here. Ball spills free in the tackle. Daniel mops that one up and we'll have a throw in.
What are your
So there's still a little,
Aren't getting much value out of their clearance.
you know, overall, it's certainly playing a heck of a lot better than what it did at release. But there is still
Inside 50.
the occasional little,
Contest and can relieve the pressure. Kicks to space. That's an uncharacteristic.
I wouldn't call it a bug as such, but
Positives today.
a couple little things here and there that if they continue doing what they're doing, and as I said, they've been putting patches out, if not twice a week, at least once a week over the last month to try and get it up to some sort of standard. But you know, certainly there's still a little bit of work to do, but it is certainly, you know, in hindsight, this is probably in the state it should have been released, at least to a fairly playable state, and then at that point, you just work on correcting a few of the little minor hiccups along the way, whereas they've had to really, in all honesty, do a power of work in terms of getting it up to a state that it is playable and that it vaguely resembles what the actual sport looks like, I suppose.
Stanley is giving him a bar. Guthrie, home. Long ball in. Hawkins marks, and this is in danger.
So again, there, like that sort of pack mark, well, you know, that's probably 50-50 in real life whether he marks that or not, or whether it gets brought to the ground. But it just seems that it's still slightly skewed towards the player as opposed to the AI that you're playing against there. And again, so there's another one that, you know, that 50-50 ball, that, and that's how it would be in real life. It would be a 50-50 ball. It seems that you're sort of getting the rub of the green, I suppose. You're getting the benefit of the doubt, and that might just be the level we're playing at. Like if you end up ratcheting up the skill level, the chances of you outmarking your opponent in what should be a 50-50 contest, whether it lessens that, but then to what degree, and how do you weigh that up with the skill level of the player, or the whether it then just becomes a matter of it's just, you know, luck whether you can do it or not.
That's almost worth a kick. Good build up. Gives it everything. Outbodies his opponent and took a ripper.
To be fair though, there's not a lot of players in the AFL that can outmark Big Tommy one-on-one.
It's on the way, and there's another nail in the coffin. The Dogs have really fallen away.
And that you can see the facial. So the player that came in on the side there, Mitch Duncan, actually does look a little bit like him. Tom Hawkins, his character model in this, in my opinion, looks nothing like him.
Here's a chance to get it forward. Looking to get it down there quickly. Hawkins appreciates that delivery.
He hasn't looked like missing so far.
We can see it again here. Hopefully we'll bang this through for another goal for Big Tommy.
It's on the way.
Which we do, and then we'll get another close-up of him.
The Cats are going from strength to strength. Everything they touch turns to gold.
The Dogs will be
Oh, I didn't want to give up. Thought we'd just jump on the replay there, not the goal celebration itself.
Delivers it inside 50. Stewart is there to thwart that play. That's not ideal. The kick is a poor one. Heads for the pocket. Tui takes an excellent grab. Wanting to get on with the job. They're irrepressible at the moment. Smith, good hands. Stanley. The Cats continue to do as they wish. Hawkins uses the body well.
Brett and Buddy, you'd think.
They like it behind the goals. He's got it.
They've got no answers for him. He's too big, too strong.
So you can see, yeah, there we go. The character model doesn't really look like him in the slightest, I wouldn't have thought. But in any event, again, it just comes back down to that budget. And, you know, I said at the top of the video that you've got to make some concessions along the way for the fact that Big Ant Studio, it's a small Australian studio, that they're not going to have the resources available to necessarily go out and face capture and motion capture every player in the league. So there we go. That's a bit of an updated look at AFL 23. As I said, certainly in a much better playable state. Is it up to AAA standard? I wouldn't have thought so. And again, I guess the cost factor comes into it. You can make the argument that at a full price game they should be putting something out a bit better than what they did, and certainly what they've now released and got it up to a standard. Still not quite up to that AAA standard, but they're certainly charging the price of a AAA game. So, you know, I guess that's up to each individual. But overall, certainly in a much better playable state. A lot more fun to play, a lot more fluid with the movement. And certainly the more you play into it, you might want to look at ratcheting up that difficulty level maybe a little bit. And certainly we'll have a look at doing some online and the career mode, which, as I mentioned before, hopefully lasts more than one season. But that'll do it for this video from Nighthawk Gaming. If you enjoyed this one, if you could like and subscribe, it certainly would help the channel. And if you've got any questions about the game itself, if you haven't had a chance to jump into it, certainly drop some comments in there and I'll do my best to answer them as I can. So again, thanks for watching.